So today we're testing out Overwatch running on my Apple M1 MacBook, running locally. This is running through CrossOver, all graphics settings on low. We're kind of just testing the performance, and you can see it's running pretty well, usually around 60 or above. It's running above 60 FPS right now, 70. And there are some stutters, there are some dips occasionally where it will dip down to like 40 for a second or so. Very short period, it will stutter for a bit. I'm not sure whether that's compilation stutter or something else. But yeah, that could be the only downside. But even though the game doesn't look great at these graphic settings, it's perfectly playable, so that's the main thing. The reason I would do this instead of using... So this is using CrossOver. For those of you who don't know what CrossOver actually is, it's a translation software and it's running locally on my Mac. So there is no cloud software, there is no cloud streaming going on here. This is all running locally. Now, CrossOver, I actually got it very cheap when it was on sale. It was something like £18 or £20, something like that. It was on the Cyber Monday sale, and it was definitely worth it. This is CrossOver 24, so the latest version of CrossOver 24.0, and this has some benefits compared with using cloud game streaming. Cloud streaming causes latency, the latency issue. So there's no latency problem, or at least it's not as bad as cloud. So it's a bit better when I'm playing heroes that are very dependent on low latency, like Doomfist. It's a bit easier to aim when I'm playing aim dependent heroes. But the main problem is this stuttering. I think you saw there, just for a moment, it was stuttering. That would really hinder my ability to play competitively. So I'll need to look into what can be done about that. I'm not sure if anything can be done, unless CrossOver updates their software to fix it with Overwatch, or maybe this is just due to compilation stutter that you can't really solve. But this is really why I would love if we got a native macOS port of Overwatch. It would be so amazing. Microsoft does say that they want to bring games to more platforms, so this would be a great way to prove it if they brought it to one of the main competing platforms, Mac. And they do already have Office products like Microsoft Word already available for Mac, so it shows that they will make software for other platforms sometimes. It's not out of the question. And they also updated Minecraft for Apple M1 or Apple Silicon to run natively on Apple Silicon. So some games they have updated. Minecraft is under their control, so they do own Minecraft, and they own Overwatch now. Since the Activision Blizzard acquisition, they do own the rights to Overwatch and control everything. So whether they would actually do a macOS port might be unlikely, but it's not out of the question. If we push for it, if enough people push for it, then it's more likely. You can see in this game, my Mercy was really great, always trying to res me, always resing me. So I wish I had Mercy like this in every game. But yeah, having Microsoft in control of Overwatch does have that negative that we'll probably most likely not see it on Mac or other platforms, but you never know. The more people who speak out, the more pressured they will be. And the good thing about developing for Mac is when you have a Mac port, it's easier to do the iOS mobile and Android, or at least iOS. The iOS side is easier since you have some of the code for the game already done in Metal. You can use Metal features like Metal upscaling as well to help with performance. But I think if Microsoft did bring Overwatch to Mac, it would be huge. And Overwatch really is a game that I think a lot of Mac players would be interested in, simply because it's a great casual game for quick jumping in and out experience. And a lot of games you can't really play in a quick session. Like a lot of strategy games, you have to spend a lot of time to get the most out of when it comes to strategy games. And when it comes to something like a turn-based RPG like Baldur's Gate, you also kind of want to spend a lot of time to really get the most out of your session. But that's not the case with Overwatch. You can really enjoy it in short bursts, which is so great. It makes it a great casual experience game. And there are a lot of casual gamers on the Mac platform. A lot of people don't think people on Mac want to game, but that's really not true, in my opinion. It's kind of a fallacious idea. A lot of people on Mac, yeah, they didn't buy the Mac to play games, but if they had the choice to play Overwatch and other games on the Mac, don't you think they would take that choice? I think they would, because being able to play more games on a Mac, being able to do more things on your Mac is nice. Lots of gamers probably do have a Mac and a separate piece of hardware that they do more of the gaming on, like a console, PS5 or Xbox. But not everyone has that luxury. Some people can only really afford or only want to have one machine. And if that's the Mac, then that's all they have to work with. So yeah, not everyone has the luxury to have multiple hardware, and people do want to play Overwatch from time to time on their Mac. I think it's been shown that there's quite a bit of demand for gaming on Mac in general, since there are being new games ported to the Mac like No Man's Sky, Death Stranding, Lies of P, Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 4, GTA San Andreas remake, and lots of games really coming to Mac lately. Grid Legends, Baldur's Gate 3. There's so many gaming options available on the Mac nowadays, even emulation, despite the fact that Yuzu shut down. Ryujinx is still usable to play Switch games on the Mac, and the Mac can do Switch games really quite well with Ryujinx, since it's using virtualization rather than emulation, so it runs a bit better than normal emulation, and you can have a pretty good experience. But you do want to have a 16 GB Mac ideally for emulation, especially for a game like Tears of the Kingdom or any open world game on the Switch. Consumes quite a lot of RAM. So more than 8 GB RAM is ideal, but this Mac that I'm using right now is a MacBook from 2020, only 8 GB of RAM. So Overwatch does run okay, because Overwatch doesn't really consume too much RAM. But I didn't get the 16 GB just because it would not really have been worth for me personally, when I do most of my gaming through cloud anyway. So more RAM wouldn't really affect me, and it's a bit too expensive. Like the 16 GB RAM adds something like £200 to the price. It's kind of a bit too much. And it's surprising to see the new Macs, even the MacBook Air with M3 also ships with 8 GB as the base standard. But yeah, Overwatch does occupy a very unique category. It's probably one of the few hero shooters on the market, first-person hero shooter. And it's very unique and very polished. All Blizzard games are extremely polished, which kind of goes hand in hand with the whole Mac philosophy. the idea behind Apple machines, including their iPhones, is that you get a very polished experience. So it really goes well with Overwatch, and I could just see Apple. I kind of wish Apple had acquired Activision Blizzard instead, because they would have had a great experience, given a great experience, and we could have seen so nice game ports. World of Warcraft is already on Mac from Blizzard, and Diablo 3 was on Mac. Lots of Blizzard games in general are on Mac, and this would continue that nice partnership if there had been a port. Sadly, with Overwatch 2 we didn't get that, and then later Microsoft acquired them. I don't know if we would have seen a port eventually, but it's kind of a shame. But then again, who knows if Bobby Kotick would have ever worked with them anyway, with Blizzard. But yeah, it is such a polished game in general now. It wasn't at first. Overwatch 2 was not polished at first, but now it's really such a polished experience. Probably, definitely my best game I've ever played. Well, maybe not ever, but it's definitely my top 3 games ever. I would say my top game ever might be GTA San Andreas with the multiplayer mod, and maybe Left 4 Dead 1 with the various competitive mods for versus play. But Overwatch is definitely one of my top games ever. And yeah, it's such a shame not to have a port, but we do have amazing tools like CrossOver. And really in general, the Mac system, the Mac platform doesn't have many FPS shooters, so Overwatch could really dominate that segment and really do very well on the Mac, simply because there are not many FPS games natively for the Mac. We do have Zero Grounds, which is great right now, and they really improved the performance. It wasn't great performance at first, but they really worked on the performance. And yeah, it's performing a lot better now. I think there's another one called what is it called? It's on Steam. It's quite a popular one, and it's also on mobile. It's a first-person shooter. Can't recall the name of that one, but yeah, it's kind of like a Call of Duty type of game, but it's a very basic game. The graphics are not great, so Overwatch would just be nice to have a really nice graphically intense game. You can see my graphic settings are all on low, just to get the best performance. You can see right now I'm getting 80 FPS. So yeah, Overwatch would do very well in the category, and it's just amazing to see what CrossOver is doing. Codeweavers is a great company, putting a lot of work into making these games available for gamers on Mac, and it's worth it if you can wait for a sale. Get a try to get it on Cyber Monday or Black Friday or something. Those are the best sales. But generally I don't really use CrossOver, simply because Overwatch is on GFN and Boosteroid now, so I'm in the fortunate position that I have a very good connection, so I can really benefit from cloud gaming and get a near native experience, even if the latency is a bit worse than local. But there's just something very special about running games locally on your Mac and doing what shouldn't be possible. It shouldn't be possible to play Overwatch at all through all of these translation layers, going from DirectX being translated to Vulkan, being translated to Metal, and then ARM64 being translated, Intel x86 being translated to ARM64, and the game engine the 32-bit being translated to 64-bit with Rosetta. Just so many translation layers, and it shouldn't be possible to do this, so it's really amazing. There's something you don't really get it with cloud gaming, that special feeling that you're doing something that shouldn't be possible on your hardware, and really kind of hacking your hardware to do something amazing. And cloud gaming does have its place. It's a very amazing thing, cloud gaming. We're living in a time where we have the luxury and fortune. We're in a very good time for gamers to have so many options to play. I actually recently got a Steam Deck, and that's been interesting for playing Overwatch on. I have yet to give my final assessment, but it's amazing to play on just so many different platforms, and including the Steam Deck, which I got the LCD model because I didn't really want to spend on the OLED. It didn't seem worth £200 extra because I got it refurbished. I got the 256GB refurbished model for £280 directly from Valve, but I could have got the OLED for £480 new, but that was £200 extra. I didn't know if I would use the Steam Deck enough to really justify that. I also have it on the Asus ROG Ally. I have played Overwatch on the ROG Ally, and that was a great experience. ROG Ally does have some performance issues. Like, I don't get the max performance from the start, which is a bit strange. I need to really look into that more. One thing Overwatch would be great if we did get would be the proper XeSS upscaling support, because that would mean you could use that with Intel systems like the MSI Claw. I don't have the MSI Claw. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but it would make it great for doing that, for playing Overwatch on the MSI Claw. And yeah, just amazing times we're living in. I have it on multiple cloud gaming platforms now. We can play Overwatch on so many different platforms. Boosteroid, GFN, and then you can play locally through CrossOver, Whiskey, and yeah, you can play on Steam, you can play on Linux. Hopefully in the future even we'll be able to play on mobile. I think it would be great if they brought Overwatch to mobile platforms. And just being able to play the game super portably, because the Steam Deck is really big, quite bulky. But the thing I do really love about the Steam Deck is you get a very simplified experience, and Overwatch just works, which you can't say for the Ally. But then the Ally does have many advantages. Oh look, game mode is on. Game mode prioritizes the performance of the game while in full screen. So I just updated to macOS Sonoma, so this is all new to me. Oh, another thing about macOS Sonoma, I can finally see my interface, but now something weird, I can't see my mouse cursor, but I can see my interface. So see what's going on here. I think I've crashed. Oh dear. Okay, let's try to come out of the game if I can. Close that. Open C drive. So this is how I usually get into Overwatch. It's just directly from the file system, because when you go through Battle.net, it has to update every single time, and I prefer not to have Battle.net open simply because it consumes resources. one thing I need to test is whether or not I still get the problem with when you alt tab. When you die, you lose focus of your mouse and you have to alt tab and come back. I don't know if that's still a problem. But yeah, having it, as you can see, my GFN session just started up. Tomorrow they will be adding adverts to GFN. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm kind of not too worried about that. I think it's fine to have advertisements, just because having advertisements will support GFN, the future of GFN. So for anyone worried that GFN would close down like Stadia, no need to worry. I do wonder, what if they had introduced adverts to Stadia? Maybe that would still be alive. Maybe it would still be going if they had some way to support the free tier. But then there might have been customer outrage, because that's not what you signed up for. People would complain. Oh, this is another problem with GFN. The very first session you load up, you get this stuttering, and this lasts for a while. This micro stuttering, you kind of have to wait a few minutes. I think it could be shader compilation stutter, I'm not sure exactly. But this does eventually go away. So just do one quick play game before you hop into competitive. If you play competitive, then you don't want to get stuck with stuttering. So GFN is kind of my ideal way to enjoy the game in a kind of casual way. But when it comes to competitive, if you have micro stutters, it makes it very, very difficult. And yeah, this game, I actually played it on my Steam Deck. It's a replay, but I originally played this game on my Steam Deck, and you can see I still was able to perform better than I would have thought on the Steam Deck. So yeah, a character like Reinhardt doesn't really require intense aiming. You can do pretty well with Reinhardt. I really do not like how Orisa has so many crowd control abilities, constantly moving around with her spear, her whirlwind thing, her body blocking with her fortify, her sucking you in with her ultimate. All of her abilities, all are crowd control abilities. It's crazy, because they kind of wanted to reduce crowd control with Overwatch 2, and yet they've kind of given all crowd control abilities to Orisa, and they took away Doomfist. So many of Doomfist's crowd control abilities they took away, and his stuns they took away, because they justified it as reducing CC in the game, but really they gave it so much to Orisa. I don't really understand. But apart from that, I do have minor complaints with Overwatch, but apart from that, it's in a very, very, very fun game right now. It's very fun to play Overwatch Season 9. So if you have stayed away from Overwatch because you didn't really enjoy it, I would recommend giving it another shot, just simply because there's been so many changes. You might like it now. Definitely, in my opinion, Overwatch is a complete masterpiece and almost a perfect 10 out of 10 game. I would rate it like 9.8 out of 10. It would be a 10 out of 10 game if they made a Mac port for me. But it's had so many great features added, like being added to GFN, having added upscaling like FSR1, FSR2, DLSS 2. They've added so many things that I would say it's better than Overwatch 1 right now. When Overwatch 2 first came out, I would have said no. I would have said Overwatch 1 was still better. But Overwatch 2, as it is right now, They've made so many really great features and improvements, including even the bookmarks feature. Like, this thing is really cool, the bookmarks feature. You can see all events, every elimination, and these are not just your eliminations, these are actual final blows. So they're not your eliminations, they're actually your final blows. So every final blow you've ever done in a game. It's great for like making a montage as well. Looks like the enemy team all quit this game. So one thing when it comes to crossover with Overwatch, you do have to wait for it to finish compiling the shaders. And once it's done that, then you can start playing. But you kind of want to wait here for about 10 minutes and then you can log in and you can get playing. So far, I haven't noticed any problem with macOS Sonoma. I've been enjoying it. But it's just been a few minutes since I updated, so you never know. But I will say that the best thing about macOS Sonoma for me is being able to see my Overwatch interface finally with crossover. It's so great because I can change the graphic settings with macOS Sonoma now. Couldn't do that before. And the other big thing for me, probably the biggest thing, is the speech to text. You can now use your keyboard and enter punctuation and so on and edit text while you're doing speech to text, which is so great. You couldn't do this before. Well, you could, but you had to use some kind of voice control mode, and it was very clunky, I would say. Not really seamless, because it was very difficult to disable and enable. But speech to text, when you're using speech to text, it really feels like you're in the future. It feels like such a futuristic thing not to have to use a keyboard at all. And I definitely imagine a future where we won't need to use a keyboard at all, ever. Everything will be done just by speaking, except gaming. But I don't see mouse and keyboard gaming being the future forever. Eventually we will get a superior input method made that is more accurate than mouse and keyboard, and more ergonomic and more comfortable and more precise. I just think that right now we're in a great place with computing in general. So many great innovations being done. And speech to text is really the future. And so great for me because I do struggle with RSI, a form of RSI that affects my hands. So speech to text is really great for me. This was very unfortunate. Got body blocked by the D.Va. There is some kind of exploit right now with Overwatch where you can get older Overwatch League skins through the shop. So hopefully they will be bringing back some Overwatch League skins next week. I've heard something like that. There's a rumor that they're going to be bringing back some of the older skins next week. So as you can see now, the stuttering is basically completely gone from GFN, which is great. Something you really don't want is stuttering. One thing they do need to work on with Mac, the next iteration of Mac OS, is having it so you can record your game sounds so that you can record your game sounds from the system without having to use third-party software. So I know there is third-party software that can do this, but I prefer not to install these things where I don't have to, just because they can clog up your Mac system and cause slowdowns and cause malfunctions. If it's all done within Mac, officially, then it's obviously better. And making Mac a great platform for gamers, they've already made great strides. They've added ray tracing capability to their new M3 chips. So we're just really waiting for more features like this. Being able to record your game sound would be a great start, because I'm using QuickTime. This could be built into QuickTime. Being able to change your bitrate as well. Being able to change your resolution of recording would be very nice. I think right now Reinhardt, a lot of people think he's not a great hero, and that might be true, but I did actually get to master with him in OpenQ. I got to master 5, so he can still work, but yeah, he can be very annoying to play against certain heroes like Orisa. But he's so much fun to play. Like, he's the most fun hero in the game in my opinion, by far. He's very unique. All of his attacks are very cool and unique, especially the charge. I love going in for a risky charge. Nothing gives me more satisfaction than landing a charge. It's the same feeling I got from Overwatch 1 Doomfist, which sadly is no longer a thing, but the lethality of your punch in Overwatch 1 with Doomfist felt so great when you landed a kill. And it didn't happen very often, but when it did, it felt so good to land a punch and get that pick that really carried your team to victory in some cases. And you get the same feeling with Reinhardt. Very unique gameplay. Nothing really feels the same. And the good thing about Reinhardt specifically is I can play him on any system, even on my Steam Deck or my Asus ROG Ally or on cloud gaming, because he does not rely on precise aim. I can basically play him on anything. So it's really great to develop my skill with Ryan specifically, because that skill can be used anywhere where I have internet. But I would still love to see Overwatch 1 be re-released. It would be great if they did. I would love to go back to Overwatch 1 Doomfist. But for now, the closest thing we have is the workshop recreation mode, which kind of tries to recreate Overwatch 1. But it's great, it's really amazing what they've done, but it's limited by workshop, what you can do with the workshop. I would also love to see a map editor, but I don't think that's going to be a thing. Because the thing about map editors, they require more space to be added to the client install. And I think the good thing about Overwatch is that you don't require very much space for the game. It only takes 30 or 40 gigabytes, which is perfect, especially as someone who always buys the base level of storage with any device. I never really buy anything more than the base model. This Mac is 256 GB, 8 gigabytes of RAM, MacBook Pro 2020 with M1 chip, 13-inch from 2020, and it's the base model. And yeah, it's been perfectly adequate for me. I think it will last me many years, even in the future, if I wanted to keep it. With cloud gaming, I don't need more performance from my Mac directly. don't really need anything. And I don't even need more storage because I have a great internet connection, which is very fast. I can upload all my videos very, very quickly and free up storage. And I can download games very quickly, so it doesn't matter if I need to uninstall something and then reinstall something later. But yeah. Overall, cloud is just a great experience. But we're going to leave it here. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be doing more videos about my experience on the Steam Deck soon enough. Thanks for watching.